Item Number: SCP-288. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures: SCP-288 is to be kept in a locker, with only security personnel of Level 2 clearance or higher given the combination. They are currently contained in a small, velvet-lined black box they were retrieved in. Personnel who have worn the rings during testing are to undergo full psychological exams afterward, and their experience is recorded. Description: SCP-288 consists of a women's engagement ring, hereafter referred to as SCP-288-1, and matching men's band, hereafter referred to as SCP-288-2, both silver in appearance, the ring containing a small diamond. They are relatively plain, and bear no marks as to their origin or make, but staff routinely describe them as seeming like very nice wedding rings, if a little plain. They are completely normal in every sense, and have been damaged by endurance testing, and subsequently repaired through typical jeweling practices, and their effects are only observable while worn. When SCP-288-1 is worn by any adult female in a relationship, she immediately becomes what has been portrayed in popular media as an ideal housewife. Women describe this experience as if they are not in control of their body, merely observing their own actions. They lose all ability to form their own opinions, and instead automatically agree with the opinions of their spouse, and display very few negative emotions, if any. They seem to gain an instinctive knowledge of cooking and baking, in the style considered to be the traditional American style, including such dishes as apple pie, or macaroni and cheese. These dishes are always professionally made regardless of prior skill. A similar knowledge is evidenced in the spheres of cleaning and light repair. Subjects regularly display the ability to sew and knit even if they were not able to do so before donning SCP-288-1. Along with this knowledge, they feel an innate urge to cook, clean, and mend things around their home incessantly. They lose the will to have a job of their own and become exceedingly obedient and loyal to their spouse, as well as religious and authority figures. Many wearers of SCP-288-1 exhibit a fondness for rather modest dress, and are uncomfortable when wearing pants or more revealing clothing. They also develop a fondness for children, and if they do not already have children, express the urge to have them. When SCP-288-2 is worn by any adult male in a relationship, he undergoes a similar change, taking on the characteristics of popular media's portrayal of an all-American dad, whether or not he has children of his own. Men describe the experience similarly to women, in that they feel they are not in control of their actions. He shows loyalty and obedience to political, religious, and authority figures, and an innate duty to his current professional management structure. He will work exceedingly long hours without complaint, and maintains an upbeat and motivated demeanor at his work. No matter the nature of his former personality, he becomes friendly and easy to approach, good with kids and fiercely loyal to his spouse. He is always willing to help around the house and willing to please with a shoulder rub. Men with children become attentive, engaged fathers, and men without children express a strong desire to have them. When used collectively, SCP-288 seems to recreate a model of a Stepford marriage. While this seems ideal and relatively harmless, SCP-288 has been responsible for numerous crimes, including spousal abuse, murder, and suicide. Both women and men report feeling trapped while wearing SCP-288, and out of control of their own life. After extended periods of wearing SCP-288, they often have intense feelings of depression and personality displacement. On a more sinister note, somebody wearing either instance of SCP-288 will take virtually any manner of abuse from a spouse without a word or raising a hand to defend themselves. In transsexual or transgender individuals, the ring appears to react to their gender identity. Therefore, a transsexual or transgender individual assigned male at birth would react to the female ring, rather than the male ring, whether or not they were pre- or post-gender reassignment surgery. Homosexual subjects are affected by their actual gender. A male homosexual will not react to the female ring, just as a female homosexual will not react to the male ring. More testing upon sex and gender is pending. The potential for SCP-288 to create a domestic slave proves disturbing to some, and seems useful to others, and records show that it has been used in such a fashion before. See Addendum 288A. Preliminary testing of SCP-288 has proved inconclusive. The rings themselves display no physical anomalies compared to a normal wedding ring of similar type. It is theorized that the rings profile their subjects mimetically, drawing on the experiences present in the subject to influence their behavior upon activation. This theory is supported by SCP-288's ability to differentiate subjects based on their self-perception of gender, rather than their physical sex. SCP-288 was discovered by Dr. Wright-Sin. Thankfully, her boyfriend grew wary of her extreme mood changes and called the emergency SCP contact number she had left for him, delivering SCP-288 into the Foundation's hands.
I'm just glad I got suckered into it before somebody else did, even if it was horrible.
Dr. writes. It should be noted that both instances of SCP-288 resist being separated, and wearers may feel compelled to buy or even steal their rings in order to keep them nearby. Addendum 288A. It has been revealed through extensive backtracking of SCP-288's history that it has been associated with upwards of 25 instances of homicide, between 13 and 15 suicides, and 2 reported cases of spousal abuse. It has regularly resurfaced in pawn shops across the United States for at least 80 years, though all attempts to track it past the early 20th century have failed to reveal further evidence.
Item Number, SCP-406. Object Class, Euclid. Special Containment Procedures, Task Force Tau-6 are assigned to monitor SCP-406 and process SCP-406-1 instances. They are to be based in a converted small industrial unit at a nearby industrial park, behind a Foundation front company, Simon's Carpet Paradise. The emergence point and western entrance of SCP-406 are to be monitored via closed-circuit television cameras. Concealed lighting and infrared sensors are to be fitted to detect and illuminate emerging SCP-406-1 instances, and emergency clothing, non-perishable food, and basic first aid supplies are to be concealed behind false brickwork on the opposite wall. Two-way audio communication is to be enabled, via concealed microphones and speakers, between Tau-6 and the emergence point, to guide and instruct SCP-406-1 instances, and to wake them if necessary. The gate at the open western entrance is to be kept locked. Trespassers are to be monitored and are to be detained and administered amnestics if they witness an SCP-406-1 instance. SCP-406-1 instances are to be retrieved by members of Tau-6 and taken to Sector 25, debriefed, administered amnestics, then escorted to their point of origin. Fabricated cover stories and/or amnestics are to be used to explain the absence of SCP-406-1 instances. All SCP-406-1 instances are to be logged and remotely monitored for a period of 5 years, previously 20, and detained if any anomalous properties become apparent. A proposal for covert monitoring of residents of the origin area to prevent or reduce disappearance event frequency is currently under review. Description: SCP-406 is a 228-meter-long disused railway tunnel in Crigglestone, England. The eastern entrance has been infilled and is inaccessible. The western entrance is blocked by a metal fence with a locked gate. SCP-406-1 are persons who emerge via unknown means through the inner northern wall of SCP-406, at a point 15.3 meters from the closed end of the tunnel. SCP-406-1 instances are invariably initially asleep and walking upright, but most instances wake up naturally shortly after their appearance, usually due to the sudden shock of the cold air within the tunnel. Initial inspection and testing of the emergence point was unable to identify any anomalous effects. Further testing of the emergence point is prohibited until further notice. See Document SCP-406-A. SCP-400 and SIX's first known anomalous event on record was in December 1981, when the naked body of Mr. Redacted, 24, was found within the tunnel, having died of head injuries and exposure after apparently tripping and falling within the tunnel. A tattoo was identified and later matched against a missing persons report in Illinois, USA. A subsequent instance of SCP-406-1 was recovered alive in February 1982, misredacted 8, and the anomalous nature of the tunnel became apparent. The Foundation became aware of SCP-406 at this point and established initial containment procedures. All instances of SCP-406-1 to date have originated in the rough geographical area of Douglas County, Illinois and a small portion of the southern end of Champaign County, Illinois, and appeared within SCP-406 shortly after falling asleep. Instances of SCP-406-1 do not report abnormal histories of sleepwalking. To date, no attempt to witness or record the disappearance of an SCP-406-1 instance from their origin point has been successful. Current conjecture suggests that a disappearance will not occur unless unobserved. No SCP-406-1 has yet to report any memories of their time between falling asleep and waking within SCP-406, and no attempt to recover memories has yet been successful. To date, redacted instances of SCP-406-1 have been recovered. SCP-406-1 instances are not known to be anomalous. No individual SCP-406-1 instance has appeared more than once. Document SCP-406-A, on August 14, 1989, at 17:32 Greenwich Mean Time, an emergence event occurred during exploratory drilling of the materials of the wall at the emergence point. Despite immediate medical intervention, Mrs. Redacted, 76, died at the scene. Mrs. Redacted was not known to have had any living relatives, and staff at the nursing home where she resided were administered amnestics in a cover story, heart failure. Technician Redacted, manning the drill at the time, also requested amnestics. This was denied. A leave of absence was granted.
Item Number SCP-235. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. Currently, 4 instances of SCP-235 have been recovered. All instances are to be kept in a secure storage locker within Reliquary Research and Containment Site 76. Authorization of 2 Clearance Level 2 staff is required to remove an instance of SCP-235 from storage for research and testing purposes. Description: SCP-235 appear to be shellac phonograph records of the type commonly produced in the late 1920s. Each instance of SCP-235 has a white label with the title in black lettering. Each record contains a different song. They are as follows. Instance: SCP-235-1. Title: After You Get What You Want, You Don't Want It. Artist and year: Van Anshank, 1920. Number of skips per play: 4. Instance: SCP-235-2. Title: Dark Was the Night. Artist and year: Blind Willie Johnson, 1927. Number of skips per play: 5. Instance: SCP-235-3. Title: Who's Sorry Now? Artist and year: Marion Harris, 1923. Number of skips per play: 7. Instance: SCP-235-4. Title: Unknown. Artist and year: Unknown. Number of skips per play: 15. SCP-235-4 has no label and contains a song that has not been identified. The tune has no lyrics, and is a slow, mournful dirge. Each instance of SCP-235 creates an identical phenomenon when played at speeds between 77 and 79 revolutions per minute. All objects within a certain distance of the recording, correlated with the volume at which it plays, appear to freeze in place whenever the record skips, or is unable to play a section of the recording. This freeze lasts for a set duration, approximately times the amount of time skipped. Those affected do not perceive the freeze and will continue as they were before it began unless outside stimulus is introduced to alert them to the gap in time. During the freeze, all motion in the affected area stops completely. Objects thrown or falling will remain in midair. Individuals do not breathe or blink, and even chemical reactions such as fire will simply pause in a manner visually similar to pausing a movie. During this time, any individual outside the range of effect, hereby known as an observer, may enter the area and interact with affected objects. Any object or individual willfully contacted, either directly or via another object, by an observer will resume normal behavior, that is, objects will fall, individuals will begin moving, breathing, and thinking, and chemical reactions will resume. All others remain frozen as before until either touched by an observer or the effect ends. This unfreezing effect appears to be entirely subjective. Only objects that the observer touches or influences intentionally will resume normal activity. Common phenomena such as rain and wind will not have any effect on the area and will behave as though all objects and individuals in the affected area are rigid and non-absorbent. Instances of SCP-235 and the devices playing them cannot be interacted with during a freeze. All forces, up to and including plastic explosives, have proven unable to affect either device while in this state. Neither copies nor recordings of SCP-235 exhibit any of the anomalous effects displayed by SCP-235. It is believed that the effects of SCP-235 are caused by an anomaly specific to the records themselves and is not attributable to the contents of the records. SCP-235-1 was found in 1941. It was discovered atop a record player, found at the scene of the murder of who was at the time president of the corporation. SCP-235-2 was found still spinning at a wedding between. Both bride and groom were found murdered by single gunshot wounds to the head with no witnesses, despite both individuals being discovered dead on the dance floor at the reception. SCP-235-3 was found following reports of a time-traveling tune, at the time in the hands of several college students, who were administered Class B amnestics and released. SCP-235-4 was discovered first-hand by Foundation agents investigating. Believed to be a member of. Agents discovered him dead of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. On his desk was SCP-235-4, with a note reading, "This one has served us well but is nearly full. You know what to do." Addendum 235-001. An additional anomalous property was discovered while Dr. was attempting to discern the properties of SCP-235's effect. Dr. ordered a D-class under the influence of SCP-235 shot and killed from a distance. While this in and of itself produced little useful data, it was noted on the next playthrough that the record skipped in a location where it had previously played smoothly. Further testing confirmed that each time an individual dies while affected by SCP-235, the instance that produced the effect is damaged slightly, producing another section of the song that is likely to skip. Multiple deaths during a single skip appear to correlate with the new skip being longer in duration, but a consistent pattern has not emerged. Item Number: SCP-273. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures: SCP-273 is held in an enclosure, 5 meters by 10 meters in size, half of which is closed off for the subject's privacy. All major structural and facing materials of the cell are of fireproof and non-thermally conductive materials. A bedroll and other modest furnishings are allowed, provided they remain in the private section, and that all consumption of food be performed in the adjacent area. All windows from the observation room into the enclosure are composed of heat-treated glass of at least 1 centimeter total thickness, with an insulated gap in between. Heat and infrared sensors in both enclosure and observation are set to produce an alarm if any temperature exceeds 50 degrees Celsius. Observing staff are required to evacuate the room in such an event. Food in the form of raw meat must be provided every 12 hours for consumption, at least 2.5 kilograms per feeding. Other foods may be provided at SCP-273's request, provided good behavior continues. All clothing provided to SCP-273 must be either flame-resistant in nature, or be of inexpensive make and fabrics. SCP-273 is not to be interacted with in person if it has not consumed a meal of raw meat of at least 2.5 kilograms mass within the last 12 hours. In light of Incident 273-02, alcoholic beverages in excess of 50% alcohol by volume must not be provided to SCP-273. Nor should any other flame accelerants be provided. All staff interacting with SCP-273 must be armed with non-lethal defense measures. Lethal force should not be used. Description: SCP-273 resembles a middle-aged woman of Indian descent. DNA samples in medical tests indicate SCP-273 conforms to human normal in all other respects, despite the subject's abnormalities. SCP-273 feels no need to eat or drink, but is perfectly capable of doing so. SCP-273 has generally shown willing compliance and cooperation with the Foundation's containment and requests. SCP-273 suffers from what it describes as a hunger, which requires regular feeding every 12 hours. This hunger satiates itself through a form of remote combustion. This produces no visible flames, instead oxidizing the subject from the outside and until reduced to a fine white ash. Metals are not consumed, except under special circumstances. See Incident Report 27303. When tested, the hunger demonstrates a preference for meat over other organic matter, especially live human subjects. SCP-273 exhibits no signs of conscious control over its satiation, and becomes upset upon consuming live animals. In response to testing with D-Class personnel, SCP-273 screamed into the corner of its private enclosure, and refused to enter the front partition for 12 hours. Addendum 273-01. In the event of SCP-273's death, the body becomes the center of a large conflagration, marked by a central pillar of approximately 1 meter in width and extending far upwards. After the initial flames subside, all that remains of SCP-273's body is a pile of white ash, with a corona of faint blue flame. The flame is not extinguishable through oxygen deprivation and requires no fuel. Over the course of several hours, SCP-273's body slowly reforms from the ash pile by consuming any source of raw material nearby, including the surrounding air. In this state, slow consumption of inorganic material has been observed. The new body resembles the old in all ways, with no signs of injury or illness. When SCP-273's body is completely reformed, it awakens, with no memory of events after its recent death. Incident Report 27301. Date. Location. The Foundation received reports of a thin pillar of flame exceeding 70 meters in height, and resulting wildfires, witnessed in the vicinity of. Due to the anomalous shape and duration of the flame, a small MTF was dispatched to the location. Bodies of 2 deceased Caucasians, 1 male and 1 female, were found at the point of origin of the fires, the cause of death later determined to be severe third-degree burns. SCP-273 was found shortly thereafter, unclothed and covered in white ash, standing over a deer carcass, which radiated anomalous amounts of heat. Carcass crumbled to ash and coals at a touch. SCP-273 was cooperative at this juncture, and followed the task force out. SCP-273 was then transported to site for evaluation and containment. Partial transcript of interview with SCP-273. Interviewer: Dr. Forward. SCP-273 had been obtained the day prior and introduced to a temporary holding cell in site. A video camera situated behind Dr. provided visual records of the interview.
You are saying then that I will be kept safe here, away from people?
Yes, 273.
Thank you. And by the way, my name is. You may use that instead.
Noted. What was the first thing you remember, from when you were younger?
I woke up surrounded by flames and covered in ash. It was the first time, I think.
You remember nothing else from before that? How long ago was this? How old were you?
Is it not proper to ask only one question at a time?
Answer the questions, please.
I don't. It was a very long time ago. Probably.
And how old were you?
Years, that much I remember. And I think I had made some great mistake. Perhaps that is why I am what I am now.
And what are you now?
A demon.
Note: the preceding interview transcript omits 3 minutes 7 seconds from the beginning and all parts after the last line for a reason. Level 3 clearance or higher is required for access to the original recordings. Know that SCP-273 admitted in the former emitted fragment to involuntarily killing the 2 deceased subjects found near her point of extraction. SCP-273 also identifies the victims as old friends. Staff members working with or observing SCP-273 are to be reminded of this fact, and of procedure for working with humanoid SCPs in general.
Dr. Incident Report 27302. Date. Location. Site. Agents. Entered the enclosure of SCP-273 with intent to question regarding. SCP-273 had earlier been granted a bottle of Bacardi 151 for personal use, by Agent. It had been 12 hours and 37 minutes since the last scheduled feeding. Upon the agent's entry, SCP-273 demanded they leave. When they did not at first, SCP-273 became agitated, shouting at them and gesturing frantically. Less than 1 second after they secured the door, the bottle of Bacardi was observed to extreme damage to SCP-273's enclosure and observation room, due to flames of unprecedented strength. Recorded temperatures exceeded degrees Celsius. Agent. His death will be handled as per normal procedure. Agent is still in recovery as of this writing. SCP-273's ashes have been contained in an airtight, fireproof safe. The damaged enclosure is to be repaired for future use and containing other SCPs. Incident Report 27303. Date. Location. Site. The fireproof safe was found to be ineffective in containing SCP-273. Severe corrosion damage to the interior and hinges of the safe led to breach of containment, followed by the resumed revival of SCP-273. 3 kilograms of raw pork was left in the room, and the door secured. Upon awakening, SCP-273 appeared disoriented, but consumed the offered meal as expected. SCP-273 then requested to return to its original containment. As said enclosure has since been repaired, this request will be carried out immediately. Addendum 273032. SCP-273's activity has changed drastically since the death event. It rarely leaves the private partition of its enclosure except to feed, and refuses to speak. Surveillance using shows that SCP-273 barely moves when on its own, either sleeping or sitting against one wall. It shows classic signs of depression, despite having no prior indications of such a condition. Recommending close observation for any additional changes in behavior.
Item Number, SCP-135. Object Class, Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-135 is to be contained in a partitioned plexiglass chamber at least 7 meters to a side. All sections are to be completely sealed off from one another to avoid cross-contamination. SCP-135 itself is to be in a central section with 1.0 to 1.5 square meters of floor space, with a 5 cm wide runoff trench around the perimeter that drains into a tank, the contents of which are to be piped into an incinerator at the end of every week. The remaining space in the containment chamber is to be used to house 5 chemical harvesting vats, 1 vat per partition section. A single access corridor is to lead from SCP-135's section to outside the chamber. No personnel are permitted within SCP-135's effect radius. All maintenance, taking of samples, etc., are to be carried out by remote control robots. Disciplinary measures need not be taken against personnel that violate this rule, because the direct consequences of SCP-135's effects have been deemed consequence enough. Robots are to be maintained and cleaned by Level 1 personnel. Once a week, SCP-135's section is to be hosed down with solution U82B until only its outer coating is visible. In emergencies, flamethrowers may be employed to reduce mass quickly. Due to the potential of catastrophic effects in the event of cross-contamination, at no point are SCP-329 or SCP-427 to be contained within the same facility as SCP-135. Description: SCP-135 is a human female between redacted and redacted years of age that promotes rapid, uncontrolled cell growth within a radius of 2.25 meters from itself. It remains rigidly in the fetal position, and has never been observed to move. SCP-135's effect is carcinogenic to animal tissue and induces malignant neoplasia in plant and fungal tissues in 100% of recorded exposure cases, with severity and disorganization increasing exponentially with closer proximity to SCP-135. Within 0.1 meters, cells will not die, even under conditions where they would normally, causing SCP-135 to be steadily buried under a continually growing mass of plant matter, fungal matter, and microorganisms. This undying state extends to SCP-135 cells as well. SCP-135 has been shown to lack an epidermis, instead having a crust of mixed plant and fungal matter that has incorporated itself onto SCP-135's skin, interspersed with tumors and patches of raw dermis. SCP-135's lungs, diaphragm, and intestines are ruptured, and growth extends into the chest and abdominal cavities. It has been fitted with wide-diameter plastic tubes for use in draining excess biomatter. The Foundation came into possession of SCP-135 after it and a surrounding ball of growth rolled off a cliff in the redacted mountains, crushing a hiker on the trail below. Class B amnestics were administered to the civilians and law enforcement personnel involved, and the incident was covered up as having been caused by a pair of male goats that slipped and fell off the cliff edge during a dominance battle. Later examination of the growth revealed the partial skeleton of an adult human female with osteosarcoma covering redacted % of it. SCP-135 was found in the space between the skeleton's ribcage and pelvis, at the time between redacted and redacted years old. A viable DNA sample was recovered from the bone marrow of the pelvis, and testing confirmed with redacted % certainty that the skeleton belonged to SCP-135's biological mother. All personnel involved with SCP-135's retrieval and initial testing were later diagnosed with various forms of cancer. Out of the redacted affected, only redacted are still alive at the time of this writing. Attempts to terminate SCP-135 with sustained gunfire, flamethrowers, caustic materials, vacuum, and extreme pressure have all failed. Further termination attempts are forbidden by Order of O5 redacted, due to SCP-135's potential uses in cultivating useful bacteria. See Document 135A for information on the current contents of partition vats. EEGs confirm full brain activity. No attempts to communicate with SCP-135 are to be made at this time.
Item Number: SCP-190. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures: SCP-190 is kept in Security Locker 23 at Site-41. Children under the age of 10 are not allowed within 50 meters of SCP-190 except under testing conditions. All personnel working at Site-41 are to be made aware of SCP-190's secondary effect, and its innocuous nature. Personnel transfer requests made due to SCP-190's secondary effect are to be expedited, unless doing so would violate the special containment procedures for another item. All individuals who have directly interacted with SCP-190 are to be monitored indefinitely for long-term side effects. Description: SCP-190 is a carved wooden box banded with iron, measuring 50 cm by 70 cm by 35 cm. The lid is carved with a representation of a large circus tent with an open central panel, within which stands a figure dressed as a stereotypical ringmaster. The carvings on the sides consist of assorted animals typically associated with circuses, including lions, tigers, bears, elephants, and horses. These carvings move at a maximum observed rate of approximately 5 mm per day, and time-lapse monitoring indicates that the depicted creatures appear to be acting in a non-violent play behavior with each other. When an individual aged 10 or older opens the hinged lid, SCP-190 contains 17 marbles of assorted size and color, 2 sticks of lightly used green sidewalk chalk, and 1 deck of bicycle brand playing cards. These objects can be manipulated within the confines of SCP-190, but cannot be removed from it. Attempts to remove these objects encounter an otherwise undetectable, impenetrable barrier stretching across the opening to the box. Individuals aged 10 or older who interact with SCP-190 or its contents typically report feelings of unease or discomfort until they cease interacting with them. When an individual under the age of 10 opens SCP-190, it will contain 1 to 5 toys or games intended for use by children. Observed objects include stuffed animals, rubber balls, yo-yos, dolls, blocks, and simple board games. These objects can be freely removed from SCP-190 by any prepubescent individual, although attempts by pubescent or post-pubescent encounter the same barrier described above. The objects typically possess a circus theme, depicting classic circus animals, venues, performers, and design schemes containing red, gold, white, stars, and/or the initials, HF. Children in the appropriate age range express great pleasure and excitement when playing with SCP-190, or the objects it produces, regardless of prior attitudes regarding toys or games of that type. Children exhibit more energetic play behaviors than they normally do, as well as more physical activities such as somersaults, cartwheels, climbing nearby objects, and simple 1 and 2 object juggling. Most play behaviors include incidental elements of causing harm to other people, especially those older than themselves. All objects produced by SCP-190 are capable of causing extreme damage, regardless of their composition. Representative samples below. Objects produced by SCP-190 vanish if placed back within it and the lid is closed. Toy. Red and white striped rubber ball with a gold star on one end. Usage by child. 8-year-old male bounced against a wall 37 times prior to throwing it at a supervising junior researcher. Result. The wall had noticeable shallow dents where it had been struck. The junior researcher suffered 2 cracked ribs and significant soft tissue bruising where she had been struck. Child expressed disappointment that junior researcher didn't throw the ball back. Toy. Stuffed elephant made of felt, measuring 35 centimeters in height, wearing a red and gold saddle with the initials, HF embroidered on the sides. Usage by child. 4-year-old female moved toy as if it were walking, child making trumpeting noises before making it step on the foot of supervisory D-Class. Result. D-Class's foot suffered multiple complex bone fractures and hemorrhaging consistent with a crush injury. Child chided D-Class for getting in the way of the toy. Game. See the Big Top, a board game of similar design to the 2004 edition of Candyland. Usage by child. 6-year-old male begged supervisory D-Class to play a game until D-Class was ordered to do so by researchers. Result. Child lost game and threw cards at D-Class in anger. D-Class suffered deep paper cuts to the face, hands, and forearms, requiring multiple bandages. Child hugged D-Class after completion of game and asked if she would receive Batman adhesive bandages to make the boobies better. Toy. Tin container labeled, Junior Clown Kit. Containing 30 grams, 1 ounce, of clown white grease paint, 2 red jumbo makeup pencils, 2 yellow and gold makeup pencils, small hand mirror. Usage by child. 7-year-old female decorated own face and that of supervisory D-Class. Result. D-Class suffered mild chemical burns where makeup had made contact with skin and developed persistent allergy to lanolin. Child was unharmed. Toy. Lacquer finished red wooden rod resembling a miniature version of SCP-2024. Usage by child. 9-year-old female touched various furnishings around the room, including the supervising D-Class's arm. Result. D-Class's arm tied into a knot. Child commented on D-Class's improved physical appearance. After initial testing ceased following the determination of baseline properties, an additional property became apparent. If SCP-190 and its contents have not been used by a child under the age of 10 for 29.5 consecutive days, faint calliope music will be audible to all individuals within 50 meters of SCP-190. This music appears to act as a mild cognitohazard, wherein children under the age of 10 will seek out SCP-190 if they are aware of its existence. Long-term monitoring of individuals who interacted with SCP-190 as children reveal that they are approximately 4 times more likely than age peers to become performers once they are adults, either professionally or as a primary hobby. Typical examples include acrobatics, magic or sleight of hand, animal training, and improvisational oratory and acting. Subjects do not otherwise display statistically significant behavioral abnormalities. Item Number: SCP-102. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures: SCP-102 is currently in the possession of Marshall, Carter, and Dark Limited because ownership appears to be a binding, deed-based legalistic agreement independent of eminent domain. SCP-102 cannot be transferred to Foundation control in the foreseeable future. Description: SCP-102 is a pair of standalone condominium-style beach houses located at currently owned by Marshall, Carter, and Dark Limited through the use of a dummy corporation known as Giza Housing Associates, and rented to MC&D members as a vacation home for those with discerning taste in the eclectic adventures of privileged life. The two share similar properties, although SCP-1021 is the house on the left, number. When a person whose name is not on the lease for SCP-1021 enters the building, its interior appears as that of a crumbling empty house, with the prone body of the current leaseholder just inside the doorway if the house is occupied. Forensics tests on materials recovered from within the house show it to have been abandoned since the mid to late 70s. All photographs taken within SCP-1021 corroborate this, regardless of the lease status of the photographer. However, when the leaseholder of the house enters via the front door, they find themselves in a fairly normal and well-kept condominium decorated with a nautical theme. Often, they report a sensation of dizziness upon entering, which fades within a few seconds. When the leaseholder of SCP-1021 exits the building, they become what is to all intents and purposes an incorporeal spiritual manifestation, capable of willful invisibility and moving through solid objects unimpeded. They enter and remain in this state each time they leave the house for the duration of the lease. At the conclusion of their lease, or at any time they willfully break the terms of said lease, they fall briefly unconscious and awaken on the floor at the front entrance of SCP-1021, which appears to them as it does to any non-leaseholder. No bodies have been observed being removed from the house prematurely. SCP-1022 is the house on the right, number. At first glance, the effect of SCP-1022 is identical to SCP-1021. However, advanced decay, followed by leaseholders of SCP-1022 who do not exit the building promptly at the cessation of their contract are to be declared missing, presumed dead, 30 days following the end of their lease. Leaseholders who do exit the building are to be administered a regimen of steroid-based enhancers to counter the monitored constantly for signs of psychological aberration. Addendum: all information in this report is unverified, though details are consistent from multiple sources. The content of this report was taken from interviews with D-Class personnel numbers 1078-69, death sentence, rape, murder, 1033-654, life without parole, aggravated sexual assault on a minor, and 3376-33, death sentence. All of whom were frequent tenants of SCP-1021 prior to incarceration. It is theorized that D-1033-654 made use of SCP-1021's effect to commit. See interview logs 102123 for full transcripts. Item Number: SCP-151. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures: SCP-151 should be kept in a locked storage compartment, covered by an opaque cloth. The keys to the compartment should be kept in the custody of the site commander when SCP-151 is not being researched. When research is being conducted, SCP-151 may be kept in a locked laboratory, provided it is always covered when not being used. Description: SCP-151 is a 1 meter by 1.3 meter, 3 feet by 4 feet, Oil painting, apparently from the perspective of someone underwater. A subject who views the painting exhibits no initial effects. However, over a period of 24 hours, the subject's breathing becomes increasingly labored, culminating in the death of the subject. Autopsies reveal that subject's lungs have filled with seawater. Attempts to halt the drowning process by medical intervention have proven successful in prolonging the life of the subject, but have not stopped nor reversed the condition. The painting is not signed, but several names are written on the back. Addendum. SCP-151 was found in an antique shop in. After the Foundation began investigating a series of unexplained drowning deaths. As is landlocked, the Foundation dispatched a team of plainclothes agents after being informed of the nature of the water and the victims' lungs and that the victims had all been discovered on dry land. The agents discovered that the names written on the back belonged to a group of artistically inclined students, all of whom disappeared during a study abroad program in. Investigation into their fate is ongoing, and may provide clues as to the nature and origin of SCP-151. Item Number: SCP-266. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures: SCP-266 is to be kept in a 10 by 10 airtight containment unit, with the internal temperature maintained at or above 48 degrees Celsius by an independently powered heating unit. Access to containment requires Level 2 or above clearance, and thermal hazard suits are to be utilized and maintained during all interaction. Description: SCP-266 is a number of free-floating masses of gaseous material, possessing a natural luminescence which exists as a bright purple or red glow. In most cases, SCP-266 feels cold to the touch, and exerts an endothermic effect on its immediate surroundings. Despite having no obvious nervous system, SCP-266 appears to react to stimuli and has been observed to learn certain habits based upon its experiences. SCP-266 is remarkably fond of warmth, and will actively seek sources of heat, natural or artificial. Of all sources, however, SCP-266 prefers human contact as a method of obtaining warmth, oblivious to the inimical effect it has on mammalian life. Due to SCP-266's endothermic nature, extended exposure without proper protection will lead to death by acute hypothermia. While not aggressive, SCP-266 will grow discontent and even hostile when not provided with adequate heat, and has exhibited the capability to cause considerable havoc when deprived of warmth. Human contact has also been observed to aid in calming SCP-266, suggesting a need or desire for social interaction. Personnel assigned to this duty have reported hearing SCP-266 speak. Recorded excerpts of conversations have revealed that SCP-266 is capable of speaking in an unknown Gaelic dialect, and on occasion have spoken back. SCP-266 was discovered in Ireland, after local reports of several youth inexplicably falling victim to hypothermia at a local hot springs. These events, along with ongoing reports of will-o'-the-wisps by superstitious locals, caught Agent's attention. After finding SCP-266, he was able to lead it to nearby sites. Upon arrival, Agent exhibited symptoms of hypothermia, and was only saved by the efforts of doctor and staff. Due to site's containment conditions, SCP-266 was relocated to Site-19 at first convenience. Addendum 266-A. Audio logs recording conversations between personnel and SCP-266 have revealed English words and phrases being used alongside its standard dialect. Current theory is that it is simply imitating these words, much like a parrot. Further documentation is requested regarding this matter. Item Number: SCP-120. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures: Due to its importance to the Foundation, SCP-120 is to be kept under video surveillance and armed guard at all times. Any personnel attempting to utilize the item without authorization are to be terminated immediately. All personnel wishing to use the item are required to submit a filled copy of the application form, document number 120-23, to facility operators. Due to the precise timing and coordination required for efficient use of this object in an emergency, all personnel entering SCP-120's building are placed under temporary command of the facility head's captain. Security Detachment, L4, and Dr. Research Team, L4. All destination locations are to be kept under surveillance and armed guard. They are valuable to the Foundation but are non-critical, but any compromised destination must be immediately reported to SCP-120 personnel. Distributed Task Force Sigma-6, Puddle Jumpers, was created with the objective of protecting and maintaining SCP-120's facility and location outposts. It consists of one command unit and one defense and maintenance unit based at the SCP-120 facility at command. 5 units based at the destination locations, plus 5 reserve units for these, and 5 units assigned to other SCP-120 related projects. Description: SCP-120 appears to be a small child's paddling pool, pastel pink in coloration, with an inner diameter of approximately 2.5 meters and inner height of 0.3 meters. The pool appears to have been fabricated from common earth plastics but has shown itself to be indestructible by any attempted means. See Research Report No. 12032 for a full summary. The pool's structure and response to pressure are typical for such a pool. It will flex when pressure is applied and is soft to the touch, but has amazing tensile strength and cannot be permanently stretched or ripped. What is contained within the pool seems to be a brightly glowing, colored, liquid-like substance, which seems to exist only partially in our dimension. It is unresponsive to manipulation by organic or inorganic means, but the substance ripples and shimmers systematically and regularly, suggesting it exists physically on another dimension. SCP-120's most interesting and useful property is used regularly by Foundation personnel. Human beings, when alive and carrying loads, including clothing, under 37.8 kilograms, are observed to fall through the pool, and are deposited at one of 11 destinations. These will be detailed in an addendum. The item will only function in this way if certain conditions are met. The subject must be genetically human, the subject must be conscious, the subject must be carrying weights of under the specified amount, and only one subject must be present on the surface. Test subjects attempting to use SCP-120 while these conditions were not met reported their feet making contact with a smooth surface underneath the liquid but no significant effects were observed. SCP-120's main use is as a potential means of evacuation for command. During a major emergency, it is currently stored and maintained in a fortified outbuilding of this facility. To inspect evacuation procedures, refer to Document No. 120-22. SCP-120 was first brought to the attention of Foundation authorities on August 31, 1992. Local police authorities in California were investigating reports of missing children in their jurisdiction, and discovered and reported the item on August 31. Overwatch Command was automatically informed through the usual channels, and a small team of Foundation agents was dispatched to claim and transport the item to Site-19, where it remained for testing over the next 2 years. It was transferred to its present location at command. In 1994. Addendum. Document No. 120-7. Destructive test results for SCP-120, December 24, 1993, abridged version. Hand saw, 30 cm, no result. Industrial drill, steel bit, no result. Industrial drill, diamond bit, no result. Munition, 9 by 19 mm parabellum, no result. Munition, 5.56 by 45 mm NATO, no result. Munition, 7.62 by 39 mm, no result. Munition, 120 mm MA30 heat, no result. Cutting torch, acetylene, no result. Cutting torch, hydrogen, no result. Cutting torch, propane, no result. CO2 laser, peak power, 100 kilowatts, no result. CO2 laser, peak power, 500 kilowatts, no result. Document No. 120-10. Detailed explanation of SCP-120's capabilities and destinations, February 12, 1994, abridged version. SCP-120 possesses the capability of instant translocation of human beings, possibly through one or more alternate dimensions. Subjects using the item are invariably deposited at one of 11 locations. These locations cycle in a specific and unchanging pattern. The 11 destinations and their locations were determined through testing with Class D personnel carrying radio beacons. They are detailed here. Location 1. Pacific Ocean. SCP-120's liquid displays a blue glow while connected to this destination. Subjects attempting travel to this destination are deposited an average of 2 meters above the surface of the Pacific at latitude degrees south, longitude degrees west. A Foundation ship, SCP-Estimeter, publicly the USS Nassau, a meteorological ship, is currently stationed at this location, and personnel arriving through use of SCP-120 materialize inside the ship's cargo hold. Sensitive Foundation material or personnel can be sent here in an emergency, and the ship has provisions for storage of low-threat SCP objects, should the need arise. Class D personnel used to dial SCP-120 can be confined and extracted by helicopter or reused, or simply terminated and their bodies retained in storage. The original Class D and radio transmitter used to determine this location were lost at sea, and might have to be recovered in the interest of secrecy, if they were to wash up on populated shores. This configuration of SCP-120 was arbitrarily designated as Number 1, and has no observable significance above other configurations. Destinations 2 through 11 follow in sequential order after this configuration, and return to it after a full cycle. Travel by SCP-120 to this location is not advisable during storms due to risk of injury. Location 2. Greenland. SCP-120 displays a bright white glow while dialed to this destination. Subjects traveling to this destination materialize 1.5 meters above the surface of Greenland, at latitude degrees north and longitude degrees west. A small facility was established here, under the public pretense of oil industry expansion. This facility has similar capabilities and use to the Demeter, and is additionally equipped with an airstrip and refueling facilities. Location 3. L3. Located at the Earth-Moon Lagrange Point 3. The SCP displays a deep black color. Objects and personnel sent through the SCP to any Lagrange point, locations 3, 5, 8, 10, and 11, are effectively lost, as retrieval is impossible at our current level of technology. They may prove a possible way to remove small but threatening SCP objects, but for now, are merely an inconvenience, as sacrifice of D personnel is required to move the SCP to its next configuration. Location 4. Himalayas. SCP-120 displays a white glow similar to when it is dialed to Location 2. Materialization occurs at latitude degrees north, longitude degrees east, on a mountain in the Himalayan mountain range. Only minor changes have been made to the destination, the digging of an 8-meter hole for disposal of D-class bodies, an overhead canopy for concealment, and supplies and tenting for evacuation to this location, which should only take place in extreme circumstances. D-class personnel used for dialing are to be injected with a mixture of sedatives and neurotoxin before sending, to ensure a humane death and decrease risk of damage to the structures at Location 4. Location 5. L5. Identical to Location 3. Location 6. Sahara. SCP-120 will glow yellow. Personnel materialize at latitude degrees north, longitude degrees east in a small outpost. The need for secrecy renders this facility unable to house any significant SCP object, but is ideal for evacuation of personnel and documents from command. Location 7. Gobi. SCP-120 displays a brown glow. This destination is located at a small outpost in the Gobi Desert, latitude degrees north, longitude degrees east, but is otherwise identical to the Location 6 outpost. However, The expansion of SCP-4024 poses a significant threat to the outpost's operational viability. Location 8. L2. Identical to Location 3, although shows more potential for SCP disposal, being situated beyond the Moon. Location 9. Marimbrium. The SCP displays a subdued gray glow when dialed into this destination. This destination is on a relatively flat section of the Sea of Rains on the lunar surface. Through vast expenditure of money and D-class personnel, a small outpost has been established there, and is considered one of the Foundation's safest locations. Location 10. L4. Identical to Location 3. Location 11. L1. Identical to Location 3.